Good day. It's Jim Norris from Backstage Insider. Hopefully, it's a good day for you wherever you are. I have a longtime friend, Duncan Fremlin, with me this morning, and we're going to talk about his past, present, and future life. So, how are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing pretty good this morning. The
Good.
lighting is good, the sound is good, and hey, we're doing fine.
It's all good. So, I just want to start way back when with your family. Was your family musical? Did you have that support? And just tell us about that for a second.
Well, it was a rural environment, probably not unlike born in the late '40s. So this was uh, in those days, every house had a piano.
Right.
The one room school I went to, the teacher was a strict, stern Victorian tyrant who really taught. If it wasn't for her, I always say her name is Vicky Bagler, Victoria Bagler. I always say to myself that if it wasn't for her, you and I wouldn't be talking today, because she would spend hours with putting me in front of the class and 20 kids and making me sing. Here's this six-year-old kid, embarrassed and, standing in front of my peers singing, and she would spend a lot of time with me and some of the other kids. So yeah, she taught me how to sing harmony. So I really attribute everything to her. And my mother was very musical, and my sisters played piano, and I never got any of the lessons. So I had to do it the hard way.
Yeah. And where was it you grew up?
About 20 miles east of the Sioux.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know that because I'm from Sudbury originally.
Well, I got this feud going with Sudbury, and you and I can talk about that off camera. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. So then, when did you actually did you take lessons at all on any instrument or?
Yeah, initially when we moved to the Sioux, so at some point in time in high school, we ended up moving to the Sioux, and I had a Stella guitar like so many of us started with. Um, and there was this really, again, another little old lady. She had this big Gibson, this little lady, and she had this big Gibson guitar, and I had not held a guitar before, and so she showed me, really, I had 3 lessons with her. She showed me how to finger pick 4 strong winds, change the chords, and I just took that and kind of ran with it. And thanks to the picking that you learn, this is just a lesson for any of these kids that want to learn how to play an instrument. It just gets going. Once you get going, then, if you're inclined, you're going to do something with it. So yeah, again, I wouldn't be playing the banjo if it had not been for those 3 lessons from this little old lady in Sault Ste. Marie. So pretty
That's
lucky.
and did you take music in school as well?
No, not really. The only music, Jim, and maybe this happened to you too, but back in those days where you had to sit and write script, all of the letters, low form, capital, over and over again, so you'd get them right. Well, the other thing we had to practice was how to make notes. They didn't tell us what they meant,
Right.
but we could draw one. So we knew the staff, we knew the treble clef, we knew the bass clef, we knew how to draw the notes, but beyond that, I had no idea what they meant. So to this day, I can't read a note of music.
Right. So when did you start playing banjo? How old were you then?
I was 27. I'd
Okay.
been I'd been strumming and picking a guitar a little bit. Nothing. I wasn't any. I wasn't doing it publicly or anything. And I went to a bluegrass festival in Carlisle, the old Bluegrass Canada. There was a big deal in those days,
Yeah.
and I went with my hummingbird guitar and just stood. I just happened to camp next to a guy. His name is Gord Braithwaite from Richmond Hill, and I just happened to camp right next to him, and he'd pull out his banjo, and I'd ask him, "Do you mind if I play along with my guitar?" And he said, "Sure." And I spent the weekend, Jim, just watching him. I just watched his right hand, and here's what struck me was the banjo is a series of individual notes. 5-string banjo, you play at the beginning, you play one note at a time. So I figured, duh, I'm not that quick, but I figured if I learned 8 notes. 8 I'll just learn how to play 8 notes in a row really well, and eventually it's going to sound like something.
Right.
And 8 went into 16, and after a couple of months, it took a couple of months. I just my ear didn't hear it, and then one day it just kind of, okay, I get it. I fell into place, and then a year later, I was teaching at the Mill Wheel downtown in Toronto,
Wow.
and then 6 months after that, I was on the road with Whiskey Jack.
That's great. So what was your first live experience? Was that Whiskey Jack or was it before that?
Yeah, I was at Fanshawe College in
Okay.
London. This was 68. Again, I'd been strumming guitar a little bit, and they used to have coffee shops at all these things. You could just get up in the cafeteria, and I don't even know if we had microphones. I can't remember, but a bunch of us would just get up and sing. I remember I used to like John Wesley Harding, the Bob Dylan album. So I learned a couple of songs off that and got up and sang in front of people. A funny thing happened to that one. There was somebody in the audience that day who was in the film program at Fanshawe, and he came up to me after and he said, "I want to do a documentary for my class on Woody Guthrie, and I'm looking for somebody that will sing a Woody Guthrie song." And he said, "Would you do it?" And I didn't know any Woody Guthrie songs, but this land is your land. Okay, so I went into the studio and recorded "This Land Is Your Land." I think that's a song I recorded, and then 5 years later, I'm at a festival in northern Manitoba, and I'm sitting across from this mandolin player. We start talking, find out he went to Fanshawe College same time I did, found out he was in the film program, found out he was the guy who
Wow.
asked me to. I didn't know it was him. He didn't know it was me. So we had a good. His name is the late Ken Palmer from the Dixie Flyers, the famous Dixie Flyers, probably at the
Yeah.
time the number one bluegrass band in Canada. And there was Ken Palmer sitting across from me at the picnic table. It's pretty great.
It's incredible how things come together, isn't it?
Small, this world of ours, this music world, you and I have experienced this many, many times. It's one of the magical things about this fraternity. I call it a fraternity
Right.
because even though it's competitive as hell, but there really is we all come together when it comes right down to it.
Yeah. And of course now with the internet and the way it works, you can be together with somebody anywhere in the world.
Fantastic.
It's quite amazing.
It
So
is.
how did Whiskey Jack come about? How did that start off?
Do you remember the Folklore Center on Avenue Road?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So uh, we were on the Alan Thicke show. We were telling the story. He said, "Oh, it was a dating game." So you had a sheet in the paper, a sheet on the wall, and you put your instrument, what you do, and what you're looking for. So I went to this thing and I saw this guy's playing mandolin. His name's John Hoffman. I'll give him a call, and he and I formed Whiskey Jack. And like I said, a few months later, we're on the road.
Great, just like that. And how many people were in the band at that point?
It's pretty much always been 4-piece. There was a period where I went to 8-piece at the beginning of my Stompin' Tom tour. Well, you know, I had a regular gig downtown at Cadillac Lounge, and I had all these friends, and we knew each other, and we'd been playing music together. So it's not like we're making a lot of money, Jim. So uh, we just, over time, I ran the thing like a dictatorship. So it was my band, but I was fairly kind and gentle. So no one felt like they were being bullied or anything. We all had an equal say in this. It's just that I booked the gigs and made up the set list, and and they all seemed to respond to that. So next thing you know, there's 8 of us, and we're having a great old time. And eventually, COVID hit, and I had to reduce it back to 4. So
Right. And in those early days when you started off, was there a natural demand for the style of music you were playing?
that's why we quit our jobs and did this. It was, think about this was late 70s.
Right.
There were 6-nighters. We played Ontario. We played out west. There were 6-nighters for this. And you can't say that we didn't work every week, but most weeks we had something, two-nighter, three-nighter. But the six-nighters saved us because that gave us the opportunity to really learn our craft, not just our instruments, but to learn how to play in a combo, how to learn how to manage, how to arrange, how to all these things. Well, we did it in the awful bars in Lindsay and Timmins and Schumacher and places like that, where we're only making the Rockcliffe Hotel $600 a week,
Right.
6 nights and a matinee. So at the end of that 6 nights and a matinee, man, if you're not better, you better get off the road.
Right. That's great. So how did the relationship with Stomp and Tom come about? How did that happen?
That there's two things that happened. One, we had been on the Tommy Hunter show for a few years at that point. We had our own segment called The Old Back Porch.
Oh
So
yeah.
Tom told me that, and he had been off the road for, if you recall, for 13 years. He didn't tour for 13 years in in as a dispute with the entertainment industry in Canada. But
Right.
he would go up to his living room and watch the Tommy Hunter show. So he became a fan of the band at that time. And then there was a Belmer Entertainment. I'm sure you know Belmer, the Leonard Rambo, Anne
Right.
Murray operation. Well, his right hand person was Tinty Moffat. I'm sure you might even know Tinty.
Oh yeah.
Lives in Nashville today. So Tinty and I met through a West Coast friend, and we became pretty good friends. And then when Tom came back on the road, um, his Brian Edwards, his management company, sort of said, "We need someone to help with this. Do you know anybody who's experienced?" And I'd been selling real estate at the time, but if you recall, in 1990, we had what we call one of the major recessions of our time,
Right.
and my industry had just the bottom dropped out of it. So I was offered this opportunity to go on the road and manage the tour. Um, and it was something I knew how to do. And, I can't say that I was a big Stompin' Tom fan at the time. I certainly knew who he was, and I knew how important he was at the time because he had been on Zosky talking about, uniting the country and all that. So I jumped at the chance, and, within a couple of meetings, Tom and I became pretty good friends. And next thing you know, Whiskey Jack's on the road with him and recording with him. And so that's really how it all started.
That's great. That's excellent. So obviously you've been at it a while, and Whiskey Jack's been around what 50 years now.
Next year will be our 50th anniversary.
That's amazing. So are you doing anything to celebrate that milestone? Because that's pretty major.
Well, I've got, we're playing the Horseshoe Tavern on February 9th, 2027. So that's our big splash. But also, I've published a new book, Stories Not Fit for the Stage, an anthology. So I'll be using my 50th anniversary year to promote this book,
Right.
as well as there have been three important members of Whiskey Jack that have died in the last few years. And so I've dedicated the book to them, and I'm going to be honoring them throughout the year as well, because Bob, my right-hand man for my guitar player for 30, 35 years, 40 years. When I'm talking about 40 years, he died during COVID, so we never really had a chance to honor him properly. So I'm going to take the opportunity in 2027 to salute this. He was a great musician, great songwriter, incredible singer. Came from a Mennonite preacher family, Jim.
Wow.
The singing McNivens used to tour the Eastern Seaboard and Southern Ontario. These tent events where they'd show up and they'd preach and they'd play music. Well, the singing McNivens were the music and the dad was the preacher. So that was Bob's musical background, and never really in my mind, never really got the recognition in the industry that, I mean, he should be in the Country Music Hall of Fame. He should be acknowledged. But he was a humble guy and never really blew his own horn. So I had to do it for him. But so, yeah, I'm going to use 50th anniversary to celebrate him. And Arlene Zock was another Whiskey Jack member for many years. Again, a great arranger, incredible vocalist, sang big band, sang Andrew's sister's kind of music. She came to us. She had been a friend of the band for a long time. She came to us and blossomed as a member of Whiskey Jack and could sing a harmony like nobody else. So I'm going to honor her. And then on on New Year's Eve 2025, the great Howard Willett died. And Howard, famous as the founding member of the Bebop Cowboys, was a lifetime classical, just beautiful harmonica player, a very powerful singer. And again, a very important part of the Whiskey Jack legacy. And so these three folks I'm going to spend some time saluting them through 2027.
Excellent. Yeah, I noticed looking at your dates, you've got some pretty far into the future. So I think that's a testament to the longevity and success of Whiskey Jack as well, because not a lot of artists can say they've got gigs into the middle of next year. It's pretty amazing to see.
Well, you might not remember this, Jim, but early on, country, your magazine, you used to have a couple or maybe even more of these huge seminars. You'd bring in people at business seminars, and I don't know if it had ever been done before. And you invited me a couple of times to represent the self-management side of it.
Right.
Because I remember you had Neil Dixon was sitting beside me. You had the guy from RCA I was on stage with these major players in front of. I mean, these rooms were incredibly well. Anyway. That really boosted me in terms of my business, and because I realized early on, it's hanging around that the business is about the business.
Right.
And so really one of the reasons we're here, Whiskey Jack is still here, is that we had our business shit together. We did things before anybody else was doing them. We were doing newsletters. We were doing, we're keeping in touch. We're just, we were very strict and regimented in terms of how often we call the people that were getting us jobs. And so we were just good salespeople, and John and I. And
right.
so, I think about those seminars quite a bit because they really boosted my ego. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we did quite a few of those, and that was, of course, way before the internet days. So, but yeah, we had a lot of good people on. We did songwriting. We did that.
Sherry Elric, I think you had Sherry Elric on one of them, who's coming to town in October.
Yeah, we used to do them at the Sheridan Center a lot of times. It was
right.
a great venue. And then, of course, we've done a lot of webinars since then. So, with your busy schedule that you have and have had for a long time, how do you balance your business life with your family and personal life?
There's I belonged to for 10 years. I belonged to there's a local guy's named Dan Sullivan, and he has an international business coaching company.
Right.
And so for 10 years, I would meet 4 times a year with entrepreneurs, all of us entrepreneurs. Could be dentists, lawyers, financial guys, songwriters, real estate. It could be a whole, just from all around the world. We'd meet 4 times a year, spend a day together. And Dan would create these structures, these programs that would help us. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to do more, have more time with our family, and just make our time useful, not delegate when we couldn't do if there was something in our business that we needed to do, I delegate it, and I learned how to do this through this operation, and it gave me a quality of life that I couldn't otherwise have enjoyed because I'm a scattered. You should see my desk. I'm a scattered person. I got stuff going on all the time. But if I structure it, and I have things, I have a system now, and I learned that system from Dan. So yeah, without help, Jim, I don't think I could have done this.
That's great. Well, most musicians don't really look at their career as a business. They don't approach it that way. They certainly wouldn't ever thinking of going to a coach, um, somebody outside the music business to get input how to run their business from other people, like you said, a dentist or a somebody else, and that's something that's we've talked about Eric Alper, and he writes a lot about that. Some of his columns just talk about the need for running it like a business, like any other bit. It's a different business, obviously, but there's a lot of principles that are the same. So I think that's incredible that you went to a coach to get some feedback and some help and some guidance.
I learned that we had a lot in common. These people, there were 20 of us usually. The one thing that we all had in common was that we were selling something. A dentist, it's obvious what a dentist is selling. It's obvious what a furniture manufacturer is selling. It's obvious, really. And when it gets right down to it, you want to put on a birthday party for your wife. Well, you're going to invite some people. You're selling them on the birthday party. So every time we open our mouths, we're selling something. I'm selling something right now. I got a book. It's $20. You can order from me.
Right.
So uh, as soon as I got that in my head, and I learned that really in spades from this group, the rest of it was pretty easy. Whether it's so I call a club owner. I have to make sure that when I talk to him or a theater director or whatever, I have to make sure that I'm offering them something, that there's something in it for them, that it's, in fact, I'll take it a step further, Jim. Uh, that group taught me that to think like this, that I'm doing them a favor. I'm doing them a favor by calling them and offering my band to play at their theater. I mean, this is the best thing that's happened to them today. Now, I don't say that, but there's something I think I give off after I've done this a few times where I'm pretty confident that if they do what they have to do and I do what I have to do, and we're all in this together. If I get hired by a theater, it's a team effort. I don't rely on them to sell all the tickets. I got to do my bit too. But
Right.
if if we all do our job, I know darn well, man, you should hire me because you should book my band because we're going to have a good time and the audience is going to walk out with a bounce to their step and a smile on their face. So, yeah, it's all like I can't describe how it sort of ended up here, but this is not the way it was back in 1977 when I started this. That's for sure.
No, things have changed a lot, but good music is good music, and that hasn't changed. And um, entertaining and keeping an audience happy is the same. And some artists do it well, and some don't, for
Well,
sure.
that's the other part of this is the entertainment part of this was
Right.
over time. Um, I wasn't a natural entertainer. I didn't get up there and tell jokes. That wasn't me. I was this Victorian, strict or not strict, but kind of a rigid, shy, insecure singer banjo player. But over time, I learned just by surrounding myself with other great entertainers how to do this. And I think I'm not the best, but I think I'm pretty good at what I do. And I attribute it to the people that have taught me. Tom, Stompin' Tom, man. I mean, he just elevated my entertainment game like 20 times. Just watching this guy in front of an audience do and say things that you would just never even imagine, excuse me, how someone would speak to an audience that way. But that's what I needed. That gave me permission to be the outrageous person that I think I sometimes am. So that helped so much. I attribute really again, there's so many people that have contributed to my being here today, but he's certainly right near the top of the list.
Yeah. Well, it's it's like people that are shy. I coach a lot of people, and learning to get over that and to network and to meet people is just another skill. It's like anything else. It is something you can learn. And to be an entertainer, same thing. It's something you can learn. You might not be born with it, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. And if you're an artist, a musician, entertainer, whatever, there's a whole different host of skills that you have to learn. You have to learn the business part, and uh, God help, you have to learn accounting and banking, and you know all the other things that go with it. So let's just talk about the book for a minute. The new book. You had some success with your first book. Well, you had quite a bit of success as
Yes,
numbers go.
yes.
Um, so tell me about the first one. What it's about and how it came together.
I uh, I my in my back life, I'm a real estate agent. I I used real estate to finance my business. This was the joke that we all use. We all need a job to finance our business. Um, and in that job, one of the things that I did to get clients, again, I was in sales. I need clients. I'm selling a book. I need clients. I need people to buy my book. So I used the first book. The only reason I wrote the first book, I had no aspirations to write a book. I had no, I'd written some pamphlets for my real estate business, just sort of information, thin, 40-page information pamphlets that were slick and polished, and I would give them out, and they certainly enhanced my business. But I needed a marketing tool because I was worried that if once I exhausted all of the theaters that I knew that the Stomp and Tom name was going to fade in the years to come, which it has. And so I knew I needed something to add some life to my packaging and my marketing. And so I thought, well, I'll write a book because the industry, the audience has been after, they have an appetite for stories. It's not just Tom stories. I go to see other acts, the legacy acts, and when they start telling stories, the fans are sitting on the edge of their seat. They really want to know what it was like, sitting across from Pete Seeger at the Winnipeg Folk Festival and having coffee with him. What was that like? Those kinds of things. And so I got together with my friend Jim Bain, who's a retired editor with the Toronto Sun, and he helped me. I wrote it, he edited it, and next thing you know, I mean, they're flying off the shelf. I've sold 1,600 of the Stomp and Tom book. I still sell them fairly well from the stage, so really it was a marketing tool that turned into something entirely different. And it turned out to be a pretty successful book.
Right.
And from that, you'd be sitting backstage with other performers waiting to go on, and we're all telling stories to each other. And this has been going on for 50 years, for crying out loud. And I happen to have a pretty decent memory. And so I started just jotting down. I kept a journal for some of it too over the years. And so I dug that out. And then I thought, well, I got another book here. And then I thought, well, shit, I got all these other friends that have stories. They're not going to write a book, but they're keen to tell their tale. Some of them are anyway. So I got a hold of them. So it's 56 stories, 36 authors, and some of the stories are unbelievable. Some are just good, fun human interest stories, but a real variety of characters are included in these pages. That's for sure.
That's amazing. That's a big project. Of
It
course.
what took me over 2 years. Yeah,
Well, especially when you're dealing with, there's an expression, herding cats, and that's kind of what that's like, because just to get that many artists to get it together to get you the material, I can't even imagine what that must have been like.
true. But what fed this, Jim, and you probably experienced this when you're asking people to come on and do a podcast, is that uh, people have a story to tell,
Right.
and they want to tell that story. And if people love to talk about themselves, so I just give them an opportunity, turn on the microphone, and just let them go. And sure enough, yeah, it took a bit of time, logistics of getting together with people and arranging for Zoom calls and that kind of thing. But for the most, some people where my friend Doug Roger, he's a playwright, beautiful writer. I mean, he writes operas. He's a very talented guy. He's an okay hockey player. But so Doug had two stories. He just wrote these two beautiful stories. Like, man, I can't change a word in these. I gotta. I gotta include these, or Andrew Scott from Sloan. I've known Andrew for years. We've been playing hockey for years. And I said, we're sitting around having dinner one night. I said, Andrew, you got a story? He said, yeah, man, I got a story. So he sent me this. It's very short. It's a story of his first encounter with Little Richard in Los Angeles. Little Richard.
Wow.
And it's in his style. It's a unique writing style because he's a great artist besides a great musician. So he's got this creative mind. I'm blessed to have, it's not a long story, but it's compelling story. So those kinds of things, it's pretty great.
That's good. So if someone wants to buy the book, how do they do that?
Just, there's two ways. You can get on the website, whiskeyjackmusic.com. There's a link there to buy it with a credit card. If you do it that way, I have to mail it to you. So the postage is $10, but I sell the book for 20. I thought, most of the self-published books that I have in my collection, and I've got a stack of them like that, they're selling for 30, 40, $50. So I thought, no, I'll sooner sell lots of them for 20 rather than, 50 for 30. So if it's in person at one of my shows, it's $20. If it's by mail, they can email me at info@helloouthere.ca.
Okay.
Just send me $30 in your mailing address, and I'll send you a book. So yeah, I've already sold a couple of boxes in a couple of weeks, so
Good.
it's looking good.
Good stuff. When we publish this interview as well, we'll put your website on there so that if people can follow up
Thank you.
for tour dates and your anniversary coming up. So, in closing, if you could give some advice to an up and coming musician, what would it be? Somebody just starting, um, you know, that's 20 years old and they're starting their 50-year journey. What would your advice be?
I met one yesterday. I met a young man, late teens, from Bowen Island in BC, and he's the grandson of our mayor, our former mayor, Barbara Hall.
Well,
A very talented young guitar player, and um, I, just don't be shy. If I would, one thing I wish I had done maybe in the first year, which I didn't do because we were kind of insecure and really didn't feel like we belonged. But I would have called someone in the know, uh, and taken them out for a coffee or something. Just, I find the industry is pretty generous in terms of their information. They'll Bert Bomback from the Dixie Flyers was very generous with us. He had been in the business for a few years by the time we came along, and he gave us a lot of advice that we couldn't have gotten anywhere else. And if you got the talent, if you got the drive, all you need, take Eric Alper out to breakfast, buy him an expensive dinner, or take Jim Norris out, or so, really just reach out, just get out there and start meeting people. I can't think of a better classroom myself.
for sure. Now that's great advice because you save yourself a lot of time, especially if you find out what mistakes people have made, then you can avoid those and you might just save a lot of time and grief, I guess. And also um who to stay away from, I think, is another thing to learn. That, that that's that's when I get people looking for representation in Canada, I get a lot of that for their products, and that's the one thing that I could say that if you're about to make a bad decision, I can help you with that because if I don't know the person, I could certainly find out in a hurry. And it's happened to so many musicians that they end up with a bad manager or booking agent or lawyer or whatever, and that can be catastrophic. So sometimes it's just finding out what not to do and who not to get connected with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's important. So that's great, Duncan. It's really been good talking to you today, and we're looking forward to the 50th year coming up, and
Us too.
all the best with the book. And this will be online very soon.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's you know, there's a symmetry here. I don't know, but I love the fact that we knew each other 50 years ago. Now here we are still doing. There's something to this. I really like this. Is great.
Who
Thank you very much.
who would have thought it? Take
Who would
care.
have thought? You bet.